Hello everyone. Today I sat down with my notebooks and asked myself what systems I wanted to keep, change, or create for the next year. So the first thing I did was compile a master list of all the systems I wanted. It's a pretty big list and it took me a while to assemble it. I had to go through a few rounds of brainstorming and deep thinking. So I went through and looked at all my current notebooks and journals and planners, identifying how I was using them. And then I took time to consider what I still needed to support me and also what else I might want to do simply for fun. I've had a lot of ideas on my mind and I've been inspired by so many other people's videos and systems, so I just wrote all of that down. I'm going to go through the whole list, but just to help organize the material, these were the overall categories that I identified. First is journaling and memory keeping. This is stuff like your daily journaling pages, stickers, spreads, collection pages, fandom journaling, scrapbooking, keeping ephemera, doodling, or making art in your journal. But to me, it also includes the preservation of other memories like good food that I ate and media that I was engaging with at the time. So tracking new recipes or restaurants and media might also be considered an aspect of memory keeping for me personally. The second category is tracking metrics, which to me is tracking stats, time, and particularly progress towards accomplishments. Tracking these kinds of metrics is a way to basically reward me for taking action. And this I think is distinct from a different type of tracking metric, which is tracking more cause and effect, patterns and symptoms, where you are looking more for a kind of balance or equilibrium. So in the first category, I would include time tracking, tracking my word count on writing projects, tracking my number of YouTube subscribers, and all of that occupies this different mental space for me than tracking my mood or my energy or my health symptoms. Like health and wellness stats could fit in either category. You might appreciate seeing how your exercise routines develop over time, but in other cases you might want to monitor for something like consistency or equilibrium, like whether you are getting enough sleep, whether you are reaching an adequate threshold, but you're not going to grow past that threshold. Once you get a good 8 or 9 hours of sleep, you're not going to try to push for 10 or 12. Or you might be trying to identify if you have specific symptoms after a certain trigger event. Generally, to me, the difference is that I want this data in order to learn something about myself, like what's the optimal time for me to go to bed in order to thrive the next day, versus preserving data in order to appreciate my own progress and reward myself for putting in a good effort. The third category is engaging thoughtfully with media. So for me, this represents media journals, quote books, commonplace books, fandom journals, or for me, like a K-pop journal, which I'm going to start soon. I think a lot of us are craving more deep engagement with the things around us. And rather than spending a few hours in some pleasant diversion and then immediately forgetting about the experience, I would rather take a few more hours to really process it and reflect on it. Sometimes this means learning the material more deeply by studying it. Sometimes it means taking notes or writing a review of my own opinion or journaling about my emotional experience with it. So media journals, book journals, and commonplace books are great channels for this impulse. The fourth category is to organize reference materials. To me, this is a way of keeping master lists. This is a way of keeping hard copies of something that is enduring, that's going to be long-term, that will change. It definitely will undergo development over time, but I'm still sort of thinking of it in a fixed way, like a master list of household supplies, like, everything that we might need to buy regularly that we need to have replenished, like cleaning supplies, toiletries, paper products, a lot of household items. Although from year to year, some of our consumerist habits might change in this household, generally we're going to still kind of need the same things and it won't really change too dramatically. So some of this reference material that I would want to organize in this way is like visual food menus, recipes, master lists of like hobbies, creative projects, or household routines, lists for reset routines, house staples, and grocery staples. The fifth category is for promoting a particular activity, and this is sort of the least well-defined of all of these categories because I'm still figuring out what that means to me and also how to do it, but it was sort of a catch-all for some of the things that didn't fit in other categories. So this includes planning systems which provide some kind of a prompt or a cue or a trigger for me to do like a routine. or a prompt for a habit that I want to build. Something like a visual schedule for household chores is going to remind me on particular days what needs to be done. Sometimes activity is encouraged just by having a particular tool, like having notebooks which are meant for handwriting fiction projects. In a case like this, the notebook itself provides the incentive to do writing. You pick it up and you just start. And similarly, other practices like morning pages kind of fit into this category for me. The notebook itself provides a cue or a prompt to clear my head by engaging with it. The next category is to hold information, and I do see this as distinct from organizing the reference materials, because those reference materials in the earlier category are more for long-term information that is not going to change very much from year to year, but which I might be using for the next decade or more. And holding information is for more short-term information that is going to be cycling rapidly from week to week or month to month. Something like a task inbox, a list of recipes I want to try, a list of media recommendations or things I want to check out or things that friends have told me I should go read or watch, gift ideas, or a list of items that I need to buy. These are all short-term lists, things that I'll want to keep in one place, but that is going to be continually refreshed as I check things off that won't be added back to it. And the final category that I identified is an overall intention setting, making a plan, brainstorming category, which actually encompasses quite a lot of material, because for me this includes messy and functional meal planning, a project management system, a place to ideate or daydream about building a better life, setting goals, holding intentions. If you like vision boarding, I think this also fits this category. But it can also include journaling about problems or trying to figure something out. Like for me, journaling about my writing process and working through plot issues or getting myself unstuck creatively. But also this can include planning my individual days, so a space to block out my plans and intentions for one day at a time also fits this category. Planning ahead for the week and visualizing blocking out my weekly schedule also fits this category. Developing video ideas and planning out my content calendar and my release dates. And also planning out other fun challenges or like timed events that I might participate in, particularly things like writing challenges. It did genuinely take me a few days to compile all this information, to brainstorm it in a couple of sessions, to remember the things that I forgot and try to fill in the gaps. And of course, then I had to turn it into this printable. I used this Canva template. This is a cafe menu template, if you couldn't tell from the coffee theming that I just modified for my own purposes. But the first thing I did once I had this list is I went through and I took stock of what I already had. Not only looking at systems that I'd already developed that I knew I didn't need to change, that I wanted to preserve and carry on into the next year exactly already as they were, notebooks I already had assigned for this purpose. But I went through my entire collection in general. I looked at all my shelves. I looked at my blank notebooks. I also made a list of some of the planners that I'm kind of interested in trying, different planner formats, specific planner companies, ones I really enjoy and want to continue and keep using. And I basically wrote down a list of all of my options, all of the materials that I had or the things that I was interested in trying. And with these lists, I started trying to fit things together. So there were some things that I already knew going in. I knew that I wanted to continue using the Sterling Ink Common Planner as my main memory keeping device. I knew that I liked it in the B6 size. I also have quite a lot of systems and notebooks listed here which are already set up. I do have some videos on some of these already. Things like my vocab journal, my gaming notebooks, things like my K-pop journal and my study notes, which have not been released yet, but which are coming at some point soon, I hope. Things like notebooks for writing fiction. I already have a stack of blanks in my preferred composition book, I think B5 size. And then I also have a stockpile of other things that I was interested in trying or had available at least to use. Things like blank happy planners, guided journals, which I hadn't finished or used very much, which I did want to try again. And then, of course, I was also looking at some of the recent planner release updates about what we can look forward to from some of these brands for 2026. And of course, you know, you're looking at all the nice shiny things and things catch your eye and you start to daydream about how you might use it. And so I wanted to take all of that into account as well. And so I basically just wrote down everything that was interesting me and inspiring me. I've been watching a lot of other planner videos, as I always do, about how people are using their systems. And of course, it always inspires new ideas and ways that I might use mine. So rather than trying to think specifically about just how to optimize all of these systems, I was also really thinking about what I really wanted, what sounded fun to me, even if it maybe wasn't maximizing my efficiency or something. So the next step was to allocate specific spreads to specific notebooks, starting with the things I had a much more clear idea of how I wanted to use, and then sort of filling in the gaps from there. So what I was going to use in my Sterling Ink spreads that I already had decided I was going to get, and how other similar things could be grouped together. Like, doing this is what really helped me realize that I do want a separate video planning notebook. So quickly, a few main themes developed, and one is the things that I wanted to keep in my Sterling Ink Common Planner. And the main thing I decided is that I do want to incorporate my media engagement with that Sterling Ink memory keeping process instead of keeping a separate book journal or media journal as I have in the past. I also want to keep the same system I've had this year for meal planning and other health tracking. I just want to develop that system and bulk it out a little bit more and just get more in the habit of using it. I'm still deciding what I want to do in terms of blocking out my daily plans. This is one of the more robust functional aspects to my system that I'm still trying to figure out, because sometimes cracking open a notebook can be really intimidating, and it's a lot more approachable for me to be able to use something like a planner pad or a notepad. In the process of doing some of this planning, it helped me drop a few things off the list that I decided I just don't have the bandwidth for. As much as I would like to incorporate a food and symptom tracker into my health journal and my meal planning journal, it's truly just so much effort to sustain that level of mindfulness to continually record what you eat and how you feel about it. And so I'm giving myself a little grace in thinking that I would like to do that still at some point, because there are things I want to learn about myself, but maybe now is not the time that I'm going to be focusing on that. So that's one of those intentions that might get backburnered to 2027, but it also might be something that I feel inspired to pick up in a future quarter of the year. And so I do want to make sure that I give myself plenty of room in the system that I get, just in case I get that urge to try. So after I filled out everything that I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted to approach it, I was left with quite a lot of things that I wanted to develop, experiment with, and figure out new systems for. And again, it's just the kind of thing where I needed to take a lot of breaks and give myself time to think deeply about things and actually explore ideas and not just stick with like my first thought about something. And of course, this process usually involves journaling, reflecting, and of course I like to do that on paper. I tend to get pretty messy when I'm doing this kind of planning, so please excuse my handwriting, but this is just the easiest way for me to connect with what I actually want and what I'm actually thinking. It helps me explore the reasons why I might be resistant to certain processes or systems or notebooks, and of course find better solutions. But that being said, I still haven't actually figured out everything I want to do yet, so this is where I've left it for today. It feels a little silly to come out with this video so soon after my mid-year lineup video, but it is planner season already. I've already seen a lot of really exciting releases, and I'm looking forward to a few more that are still upcoming. And of course, I'd always love to hear in the comments about your plans for your planners, so let me know what you're excited about for 2026, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.